Welcome to your next session of your Business Administration course, where today we're going to be looking at working together in business admin roles. Please note that you need to look out for the green box on the right hand side. Your aims and objectives for today's session are to understand the purpose of an organisational chart and the information that it tells us. You're then going to state the responsibilities that we have to help out our colleagues and describe how individual behaviour can affect teamwork. The organisational structure. So what does this term mean? I've put an image over on the right hand side to help support your learning here. So the organisational structure means the way in which the company is organised. So it highlights the relationships between directors, the person right at the top, managers, the people in the middle, and all other employees. It helps keep order at work. So people know who to ask questions, they know who their line manager is, so perhaps if they would like a day's holiday, or perhaps they've got something going on in their personal life they need to discuss with their work, they would go to their line manager. An organisational structure creates efficiently, so it makes the workplace run more effectively, it makes the workplace more productive. An organisational structure helps to put the policies of the workplace into effect, and this is because the director at the top will come up with the policies with the help of some external agencies, and he will pass on the information to the three line managers in the middle of that chart, and then it'll be the line manager's responsibility to feed that information back to their team members who they are responsible for managing. It's also great for things like task allocation, because you take direct orders or instructions from your manager, and you'll be able to have supervision as well from your manager. So if there's something you're particularly struggling with, or if you're new or new to some part of the job, you're going to have some help from your line manager, and hopefully it's nice and supportive. So each company has an organisational structure, and within the organisational structure each position is identified including the purpose of their job and who it is that they report to. So you can see that on the image, because you can see the arrows going up as to who reports to who. This can help you know where you stand, so you know that you're not all going to take your queries up to the director right at the top or the CEO. Instead, you're going to take it to your line manager, and you can think of it as like a pecking order, for a lack of a better phrase, for the employees. So the organisational charts are usually divided into different departments, such as, what they do, and the staff are divided by what they do as a job. So on the image that I've put on here, there are 5 departments with the CEO above and 3 members of staff going down. A level of top managers usually oversee the work being carried out by the employees in each department. Job roles in business administration. So in front of me, I've just written out the information that I put on the other slide vocally, so you can see here who reports to who and who takes instructions from who. So just pause this video here if you're still having a read of that, so that you've got a chance to finish reading it before we move on. For question 1, I would like you to describe how staff are organised to ensure effective delivery of customer service, and for this part of the question on that criteria, you're going to show how the staff are organised. So you're going to create an organisational chart. I have put one in on your work booklet. Historically, people have found it quite difficult to work with that format. It lets me type on a computer, but I'm not sure in terms of tablets, phones, etc. If you're having trouble, you can draw it out on paper and take a picture. Same format, that's absolutely fine. Remember, the person at the top is the one with the most responsibility. Please pause this video whilst you complete that question. So the organisational structure, still working on this at the moment. So we've just looked at your organisational chart and you've just drawn out your organisational chart. So in work, both staff of both employee and line manager level, staff at both of those levels, know what is expected of them by the way that they are organised. So we looked at who is responsible for whose instructions and who is going to ask who for instructions as well. So this is beneficial because the employee, they know who they report to, and this is positive because it creates good working relationships between the managers and their employees, because there should be an open line of communication between that manager and between the staff member who is being managed by them. The employees also know who to ask for advice on their job. So if you've got an approachable manager where you have a good relationship with them and you're unsure of something, then you should be able to ask that manager for their advice. They should be supportive. And this creates a good level of customer service because as staff know who their line manager is and they know that they're approachable, they know who to pass on difficult queries or complaints to. And not only that, they have the knowledge to ask their seniors, their line managers, who to ask about policies and procedures if there's something that they're unsure of. Perhaps a customer's asking, what's your return policy after 28 days? Do I get a full refund because it's a broken item, or am I only eligible for a voucher? And obviously it depends because it's all down to different laws in retail and things like that. But if that's something where you're thinking, oh, I don't know, then you go to your manager and you ask, and hopefully that would help with the customer service side of things as well. With the line managers, because they know who they manage, the organisational structure has given them a clear guide of who they're managing. They know who they need to train and ensure that they have up-to-date knowledge of the products and services that they are providing. They know who to give feedback to from meetings, so perhaps they have been given some stats or KPIs, key performance indicators as they are known in the workplace, and perhaps these need feeding back to the team. They know who exactly they are speaking to because they know who they are managing, and they know who to tell about new organisational policies and procedures and things because they know directly who they're managing. So how does this relate to customer service? Good customer service comes from this because it creates a quality service. So all staff should have had the same training as one another and should have the same knowledge because it's all coming from their line managers. Their line manager shouldn't be favouring one person over another, and they should have access and support to that training. With regards to customer complaints, staff will know who to speak to about complaints from customers, so they can be dealt with, efficiently, effectively, and correctly. They can ask for advice from their manager on customer service queries, and they can refer as well. So if they're really not sure, they can refer a problem, issue, query on to their line manager as well. So it does help to build that good customer service level. When I worked in an office, I worked in you might have heard of it actually, a place called Victoria Plum. That was my sort of main office work. So we sold bathrooms over the phone, and a lot of the products I'd actually never seen in person, because we weren't allowed access to the warehouse, and so we just had access to the website, and customers would ring up and ask for very specific queries on things like, what is the measurement of the lip of the bath from the tap, and I didn't have access to do that. I would have to refer it to the next person who could do that, who had access to the warehouse, because we couldn't all be walking in and out of a warehouse where there's forklift trucks and things operating. So yeah. For question 2, I would like you to now describe how the staff are organised to ensure effective delivery of customer service. So you've already answered part 1 of this question by looking at your organisational chart. I want you to look back at question 1 and back at your organisational chart and really think about the way that the staff are organised within that chart. So not only where they sit, but show that you understand who reports to who, and then just a sentence as well to show why it ensures effective delivery of customer service in an office environment. So just think about like that example that I just gave you there, whereby I didn't have access to the warehouse, I had customer queries that I couldn't answer without a tape measure and physically seeing a bath. So I would have to pass that on to my line manager who had access to the warehouse to be able to go take that specific measurement, which then obviously gets fed back to the customer and the customer is happy. It'd be the same with things like complaints, referrals, quality service as well, all those things we just looked at. So please pause this video whilst you complete that question. Helping others at work. So part of the organisational chart that you looked at previously showed us where people are managed by the line manager and who reports to who and things like that. However, it's not as fluid as that, so it's not it's in place for a reason and it's great, but obviously things like when lunch breaks are happening, when holidays need covering, we need to start being a little bit more flexible and to be able to help each other out within our roles at work. So how could staff at each level help each other out? Let's think about some tasks or activities that they could do to help each other out. So here's a few tasks that they could have help with if you're unsure. So it could be things like covering their lunch break, answering the phone when they're away from the desk, taking messages for them and emailing them to let them know. They could share a method of how to do something. It could be something really specific like how to use an Excel formula, or it could be a simple like how to transfer a call. Providing sickness or holiday cover, asking if there's any other jobs that need doing, perhaps if they've got a bit of a free moment, offering to help if someone's got a very high workload, training and support, general help, or being able to ask for help and ask for training support as well. So for question 3, I would like you to state 4 ways that staff working in an office could help each other out at work. Again, you need to use full sentences and develop a statement of a minimum of 2 sentences. So you need to open your paragraphs such as staff working in an office can help each other at work by, but do not bullet point at that moment. Please pause this video whilst you complete that question. So far we've looked at the organisational chart and who sits where and who has what responsibility. And we've looked at how people could help each other out at work. Being able to help each other out at work is a really good way of team working. But what is the impact of good teamwork? So by helping each other out at work, we're going to have a positive impact on team working. We're going to have a positive rapport in the office environment, and everyone should feel happy, hopefully. The impact of good teamwork as well is improvement of customer service, because if you're able to ask the manager questions, if you're able to have access to good quality training, then customer service is always going to be improved, because if you're continually learning at work and you're continually getting better at work and you've got access to information and training, then your customer service is going to be better. You're going to be happier. Team targets should be achievable, so you could win such as like an award for being a great team. Quite a lot of large companies do have an awards procedure, like a ceremony kind of thing. I used to work at a college before I worked for Plato, and they call it Star Awards, recognition for staff, and there were things like teamwork in there as well. Positive working relationships. So if you have good teamwork amongst your whole team, then it's easy to be open and honest with management, and there's going to be no hostility, which means there's going to be no aggressiveness, no people being snappy and unhappy and angry. And if everybody plays their part, then there will be good teamwork. Whereas if there's not very good teamwork, it can be a very different situation, because if people are not willing to help each other out at work, it's going to have a negative impact on team working. It's going to create a negative rapport in the office, it's going to be a low rapport in the environment, and that's not going to be a very nice place to work. Many people will feel unhappy. So it's going to have a negative impact on customer service, because people are going to be unsure of what they're doing. They're going to have very poor training or no training at all. They won't really know what their responsibilities are, and the staff are going to be unsure of what policies and procedures are in place, and it's just going to be very messy. It'd be like making it up as you go along, which is going to lead to a very poor standard of work, because staff will not know their job very well. But also, if it's very hostile, they're going to feel afraid to speak to their manager to ask for help, because they've got those poor working relationships. It can be very difficult to be open and honest with management, and that can lead to, unhappiness, perhaps even anger, managers being snappy, and that's not a very nice place to work. So even if one person refuses to work together, it can make teamwork really fail. For question 4, I would like you to describe how individual behaviour can affect teamwork. So to describe, you need to make sure that you are writing a minimum of 3 sentences to develop a paragraph. You need to give at least 3 examples of positive impact and 3 examples of negative impact in your answer. Just make sure you're writing in full sentences to develop that paragraph. So hopefully that makes you want to work as an effective team worker. But what factors can lead to good teamwork? So it's things like working together on a project, not just doing it on your own, actually working together. It's a bit like when you're working in the breakout groups on your Microsoft Teams. It can be a bit uncomfortable at first, but if you are working together and you feel like others are contributing, it does make it a much more positive space, because otherwise it might feel like there's just 1 or 2 people doing the work, and that can make motivation slack a bit for those people that think, oh well, I'm doing all the work here, that's not really fair. Supportive managers are very good for effective teamwork, so hopefully when you do go into work after your course, you will have supportive managers. And those managers will hopefully encourage and praise you as well. Respect and tolerance of one another at work. So we all have differences to one another, and you're not going to be expected to become best friends with your work colleagues. However, we're not expected to argue with them either. So it's about respecting that we have differences to one another and tolerating others that we perhaps don't always agree with at work. Positive and open communication. So allowing people to ask questions is going to really help teamwork. If someone's always getting shut down and told, oh, we'll come to you later, it's just going to ruin the team vibe. People would just give up trying. Being patient and flexible. Being able to accept constructive criticism. So this means accepting not only what you did well, but also what you could improve. But it's not about being negative to one another, it's about giving constructive criticism. So whereby when I'm marking your work, I will always tell you what you've done well, but also what you could have improved. So perhaps it'll be something to do with like spelling, grammar, etc. That's something that crops up quite a bit, so please take care when you are writing. Motivating one another. So making sure that people are still eager to be working together, and accepting responsibility when something goes wrong. So if something goes wrong and it is your fault, it's not about saying, oh, fault blame, fault blame. We're not about blaming people here, but the person who has made a mistake, perhaps, they need to accept responsibility and say, look, alright, that was me, that was a bad idea, let's move on. So for question 5, I would like you to identify factors that lead to effective teamwork. So to identify, you need to ensure that you use a supporting sentence with your answer, which is not just listing. Ask your tutor if you're unsure. You need to give at least 4 examples in your work that you're writing, And I've put an example of a supporting sentence on here, so such as one factor that could lead to effective teamwork is having open communication, so we can ask the line manager questions. So that leads us back to our aims and objectives for today's session. So your aims and objectives should have now been achieved to understand the purpose of an organisational chart and the information that it tells us, to state the responsibilities we have to help out our colleagues, and to describe how individual behaviour can affect teamwork. Thank you for watching.